The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Thank you for tuning in to the Influencer's Edge, where you get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques so you can leapfrog over the pack in sales, influence, and persuasion. Remember to visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com to enjoy even more great episodes like this one. We look forward to seeing you again on the Influencer's Edge Show. Hey, welcome back to the Influencer's Edge. As you know, this is the show that disconnects the dots, colors outside the lines, and thinks outside the box. And today I was warning my guest, Colleen Stanley. Hi, Colleen. I was warning my guest who's there in Colorado where the winds are whipping around the mountains and piling snow. Is it snowing?
Well, we don't have snow. What we have is this high wind warning. So my husband and I live up in the foothills, and so I'm
Yeah.
actually at my Julie, who's been my wing woman for 11 years, at her house because we have no electricity, we have no internet. But I was
Oh,
like, I
complain,
am not
complain,
missing this podcast. So
complain,
so
complain.
we put our heads together and said, hey, we're just going to conduct it from here. So that's
Okay,
what's going on in Colorado right now. Mhm.
I also give Colleen a warning that I seldom complete the bios, that what happens is something she says triggers my own curiosity, and that's what that's what gets going. But having said that, we'll start with a bio. All right. So Colleen Stanley, let's affirm that's you, correct?
That's
Colleen
me.
Stanley is the president of sales leadership. Right away, I'm gonna hit the pause button and ask, what does leadership mean to you? And how does someone who's not there get there?
Well, I think when you ask that question, leadership to me, because I've worked in the emotional intelligence world for so long, I would start with self-leadership because you cannot lead other people unless you know how to lead yourself, right? And so there's a lot of qualities that go into that. And what I've observed as I've developed as a leader, and I've had times where I've fallen short. But I would say one of the things I see with leaders is number one, they have really good self-control, emotion management, emotion regulation. And I'd also say they score pretty high in self-awareness. And some of the research is interesting out there because it says the higher you go in your career, sometimes the lower your self-awareness. So to me, leadership is being able to lead yourself.
Let's talk about that. You say the higher you go in your career, the less self-aware you become. That's interesting. Unpack that for us. What does that mean, and what's the mechanism, do you think, behind it?
Well, here's what, and as I said, I heard another speaker, and she's pretty good. I can't remember where the stats come from, but I've read it in more than one place, Paul. Here's what I suspect is going on. You think about it as let's say you're the CEO of a company. Well, unless you've really created that environment, and we like to use those words out there, candor, crucial conversations, truth telling. However, if you've really not created that environment, nobody's pointing out your blind spots. Nobody's willing to challenge your opinion.
Right.
So the fact is, sometimes the reason your self-awareness grows is because you have good partners in life, good friends, good colleagues that'll say, hey, listen,
Yeah.
you got a blind spot here and it's not serving you well. So that's where I suspect some of the lower self-awareness. I also wonder, and I'm going to use the word wonder if it comes because, With success, you better be balancing it with a really good degree of humility because without that humility, you forget the desire to learn, you develop know-it-all-itis, and so I suspect that can be where lower self-awareness comes into play too.
It's particularly important. I want to get your feedback on this because, again, as I told you, things will come up for me, bubble up as we talk. Would you say it's even more important to develop the skill of self-awareness as markets change and the world changes so quickly?
My answer would be a resounding yes, and followed by this, because what I've observed in myself and then others, the higher your self-awareness can be, that's that really just good ability to take a look at yourself and know how you're landing on other people. Well, generally, the higher the self-awareness, the higher the other awareness, which is the skill of empathy. And let me give you an example on that. Let's say you've had a situation where it was disappointing. Maybe somebody dismissed you. And in sales, often there are times that salespeople can feel small if they don't know how to run a complex sale. Well, I always say there's good news there because anytime I felt disappointed or frustrated, what I immediately ask myself is when have I made somebody else feel that way? So my self-awareness and how I'm tuning into my emotions then raises my awareness on how I might be negatively impacting somebody else's emotions, or, it could also be positively. When did somebody make me feel really good? I appreciated them celebrating my success. Am I doing that enough for other people? So self-awareness, in my perspective, raises other awareness.
I love this. And I also like the idea, in order to have any of this, the base foundational skill is emotional regulation,
Yes.
self-regulation. And I think, and again, I want your feedback on this, but one of my observations has been both business and personally, so many people lack that skill, and it's not even something that's brought up as something that's of importance. I think in our culture, and again, I want your feedback. This is not about me, but in a culture of overstimulation,
Yeah.
too many choices, ADD, ADHD, and narcissism, that that is antithetical to self-regulation and empathy.
Yes, yes, and yes. And so, full disclosure here, you are talking to somebody that did not have good emotional regulation. So I was always
Tell me
pretty
more. What did
successful.
that cost you? Let's back up. Did you grow up in a family that was dysregulated, or how did that originate? And what did that cost you?
Generally, what you're going to find is that you're growing up in a family where one of your role models did not have good emotional regulation. And I would say in my family, my mother was probably that person. And that's not to throw her under the bus. I mean, if you're still mad at your parents or your siblings, you got some issues. Okay. So I'm not it, but it's understanding your past, but not letting your past dictate it.
Right.
So I was someone that could go from 0 to 100, get angry, get frustrated with people, get judgmental pretty quickly. And so I think the reason I was attracted to emotional intelligence when the work was brought to me was I probably knew I got some work to do in this area. So, it was Doctor Heal Thyself. I'm not sure what the saying is.
Yeah.
So
Physician
that
heals
is
himself.
something I've worked on a lot. And I can tell you, you can improve it because recently I've had a couple of situations where normally it would have caused an emotional reaction. And seriously, Paul, I'm just kind of like sitting there, taking it in and not responding quickly. And so the good news with emotional intelligence, if you have a desire, focus, commitment, you can improve those skills. And I'm living proof of it.
I'm a male, so emotional intelligence is impossible for me. No, I'm kidding.
That would be called a self-limiting belief system, of
I'm
which I will
kidding.
not support.
I'm kidding. I actually think my emotional intelligence is one of the more attractive traits I have. But again, this is about you, not about me. What do you think about me? I love this. We're having fun batting this back and forth. So, w- if someone comes to you and I don't like the word diagnose, but you evaluate that they are lacking this emotional regulation and self-awareness, how do you teach them? What are the steps to teaching them this? And how do you do this with people who grew up in an environment where looking at themselves was dangerous, where they were taught to beat on themselves, where they internalized a very critical, mean
Right.
looking at themselves. So, what are the steps to developing this emotional intelligence? And how do you deal with the very highly challenged clients who grew up in an environment where
Yeah.
had to either freeze or flee or
Yeah.
fight, survive, because that part of the nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, cannot self-regulate. It cannot develop any kind of emotional intelligence. I'm asking you
Hmm.
a lot.
So I've worked with some nonprofits, and I do that as part of my philanthropic work. And so, a lot of those communities are being served by people that came, they grew up in alcoholic homes, abusive homes, domestic violence. And literally, their brain is different. That's what you have to understand. The
Yeah.
brain is different. There's a wonderful book out there I often recommend by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey titled What Happened to You? And Dr. Perry is one of the foremost authorities on trauma. And obviously, Oprah is a shining example of where you can push through adversity. So they talk about that a lot. Now here's I guess the positive news is in our brains, and I know you're very familiar with this, we can rewire our brain. It's called neuroplasticity, and cells that wire together fire together. So this is why, meditation can and reflection can be a really important practice to put into your daily routine. So for example, when I was working to get more emotionally regulated, I was tired of being that person that lit up. I would sit there and visualize myself being in a difficult situation, one that would normally annoy me. And I would visualize and I could feel the emotion, Paul. And then I'd also visualize a different response. Well, what I was doing, I was creating new highways in my brain. And it doesn't mean the old ones aren't there, but it's like a muscle. They'll atrophy. If you don't use them, they start losing,
Right.
and then the superhighway comes in. So reflection time, meditation, positive self-affirmations, as crazy as it sounds, because it sounds like that Saturday Night Live skip, I like myself, I
I'm
feel
good
good about
enough.
myself,
I'm
right,
smart
from years
enough, and
ago.
everybody and people like me.
Yeah, but it works. Now the other thing is, I would say to change that brain, so it is that habit of thinking positive and mantras. It is also really taking some time to reflect on what's triggering you, because here's this thing called life. And there's going to be people, places, or situations that trigger you. They're not going away. And so you have to identify those triggers. And if you can identify the triggers, then you become more aware of them by which you can manage them. And so, for example, if you're somebody that gets triggered by somebody cutting you off when you're driving, right? I just had lunch with a friend of mine. She's a humorist. She's funny, Karen Ruth White. And she said, what I've learned to do is when somebody cuts me off, I just say, good luck getting the heart transplant to the patient. I just reframed the situation. And so, and she does a much better job, but she'll go heart transplant on the right. I've got a liver donor on the left. So she just reframes the whole situation, which in turn changes her response. That's called, in the psychological world called reframing. So there's a
I,
lot of tools out there by which we can either really rewire that brain or catch the reaction, catch it before we speak and do something stupid.
that's a brilliant answer. I'm loving this conversation. Rather than dive word for word into your bio, I gave it a good, thorough scrutiny before we hopped on the air here. You mentioned mentorship a lot.
Hmm.
Mentorship a lot. What are the, first of all, how do you define it? And then even more importantly, what's the distinction between a mentor and someone who just gives you advice?
So I'll do a shameless plug here. We just came out with our new
Please.
book.
No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. This is a shameless show. Go for it.
Oh, then be the mentor who mattered. I think we've got the book in the background here. And so we just published it in November. So let me answer the first question. What is a mentor? I took a different perspective on this, Paul, based on my experience. And I had great mentors throughout my entire life. I
Really?
think a mentor is anyone that helps you. So often I think people avoid mentorship because they don't think they're qualified. You have to have a big title, you have to have a big office, big
Yeah.
experience. So
Yeah.
I in the book just said it's anybody that's helping you. So which leads to your second question, what's the difference between mentorship and somebody giving you advice? I don't think there's any difference because in my life, I have had one conversation that was full of advice, direction that changed the trajectory of my life on decisions I've made. So I I think it's anybody that's out there helping you. And what I challenge everybody to do is show up more intentional because I'm telling you, every conversation could be a mentor moment. And you
What
may
does
not
that
know it
mean?
until years later. Hmm.
Pause just for a minute. For those, I know my audience, one of the things that makes them stand out is they like very clarified, clear definitions, right? So
Hmm.
you just used a term and I want you to define it clearly. I
And the
believe
term,
I believe it just flew out of my head because I haven't had my coffee. So we'll, we'll move onward. Oh, actually, it was a statement to you. I want to get your feedback. This is from someone who's one of my mentors. He actually came up with the title for my book. I won't mention it because this is about you.
oh, go
No,
ahead.
I won't even mention it. He said, "Fools seek advice. Wise people seek counsel. And the difference is counsel comes from people who are already at or who have been where you want to go. Advice comes from people who are well meaning, but they don't have the experience and they haven't gotten to where you want to go. So I don't mean to, certainly don't mean to call you a fool or to gainsay you, but what do you think about that way of thinking about it?
I think everybody's got their opinion. I've had people that have given me advice that's been great advice. So I don't know if I'm going to get caught up in the linguistics of it.
Okay.
Um, but when I say it could be a teacher, a coach, it can be your boss, it can be a peer. They show up in different forms. And so I like the phrase
Relationship.
that your friend has. I just don't know if I totally agree with it.
I get it. They show up in relationship too. If you listen, I've been called stubborn, emotional, and controlling, and more than one lady has called me that. And so being stubborn is not a good way to get feedback, but it was a survival mechanism for me. Now let's, by the way, you mentioned you're an author. Before we dive in your bio, I prefer you to list the titles of the book. And do you have any of them back there so you can hold it up to the camera so we can see it? If
Yeah,
you
let's see. We've got I
go
can go
grab,
back here. There's emotional intelligence for sales
can you bring it
success. Emotion.
forward so we can see it?
Yeah, let me grab them. So the emotional intelligence for sales success,
Love it.
and then
Put
emotional
this all in the
intelligence
show
for
notes.
sales leadership, and that's
Love
designed for
it.
sales managers. And this is the most recent book. Be the mentor who mattered.
Ooh, love that title. How long did it take you to come up with that title?
This is interesting. I was out hiking, which I do a lot because we live in the foothills of Colorado, and I'm not kidding. One of my friends called it was the divine download because I am hiking, Paul, and all of a sudden this title comes in my head, Be the Mentor Who Mattered. And I thought, what is that about? I mean, I'm not teaching mentorship. I believe strongly in it. But I came home and I purchased the URL on it. I didn't even know what I
Mm.
was going to do with it. Well, then I started thinking more about it. It kept rolling around in my head. And one of the habits I have every morning, obviously with the work I do in emotional intelligence, I do carve out quiet time.
Mm.
And what I had made a habit of is going through every morning, being grateful. And in that gratitude list were all the people that had mentored me from grade school to where I am today. So I think it got planted with the gratitude session and then somehow, with this hike in the woods. So that's where the title came from. Hmm.
How about me giving you a bit of mentorship? If you don't
Now,
mind,
what's that?
I'll give you a little bit of mentorship if you don't mind. Let's bat this
Absolutely.
underway. I have found a gratitude practice is wonderful and necessary, and not but the completion of the other side of that coin is to bless other people for their success, be happy for
Yes.
other people for their success. So when I do my gratitude practice, I express gratitude for everyone in my life for having the breath in my lungs. And then I think of all the people who are doing well, and I literally say, bless them for their success. May they continue to flourish and thrive and grow. And I find this is just me personally. I don't know how the audience takes it. For me personally, that tends to magnify how grateful I feel for my own life. Just to,
I think that's wonderful. And you know what it does? And you probably already know this. It gets rid of envy. It gets rid of comparison.
oh,
It
point.
gets rid of trying to compete and run
Oh
somebody
my God.
else's race versus your own. And so I think there's a lot of wonderful things that come out of that. And I would include even blessed people that you may not even particularly like.
Dude, I
If you're
do.
able to do that,
Hey,
that's a good practice.
hey, the great carpenter from Galilee said, "Pray for those who don't say good on you." I
Yeah,
love.
that's right.
See, we're
Mhm.
moving into the spiritual realm. And this is really cool. Removing envy and removing comparison and all of those things open up a door to grace.
Yeah, they
And
do.
so I don't know if you've ever framed your work this way, but really, I think your work is delving into the spiritual. You are teaching people through the skill set you're teaching to open a door to grace. And in that sense, I think you're doing some healing work. This is my take on what you're doing. I don't know if you've ever thought of yourself as a healer, but my
I haven't thought of myself as a healer, but I do believe there's a lot of spirituality in emotional intelligence, right? Because if you study any, whatever your faith path is, there's
Buddhism.
going to be some basics that every good faith path lends itself to. So that's where, when you take a look at impulse control, that's holding your tongue. That's, thinking before you speak. It is being happy for other people. So nobody does well with judgment or jealousy. It's like that. It kind of rots your bones. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of a stealth way to teach speech spirituality in case
Oh my
people
God, I
aren't
love
ready
that.
for those words.
I
Mhm.
love that word stealth. Let's dive into so you showed us all three books. Totally cool. So I don't have to read that from your bio, but let's have a look. Mentorship is needed more than it is. You don't need a big title or set of accomplishments to make a difference. Talk a little bit about that. I agree with you, but I want to know how you unpack that statement.
Well, when I read books on emotional intelligence, one of the reasons I
You
read
pause just for a second where your sound is a little low. Can you turn up your volume or go
let's
closer to the
see.
mic? Yeah, you're there.
Let's
You're there.
Okay,
You're there now.
great. I'll get a little closer. So one of the reasons when we teach emotional intelligence is we talk about bridging the knowing and doing gap, right? So, in sales, there's terrific sales training programs out there. There's terrific leadership programs out there. So why aren't we doing what we're supposed to do? And
Brilliant.
so yeah, so EQ can, like, I'll give you a real quick example in sales, is everybody knows they're supposed to get a clear next step on the calendar. And how many managers still struggle with getting their salespeople to do that? Well, that's no longer a skill set or a knowledge set. That's lack of assertiveness. Okay. Or it's a self-limiting belief system. I don't want to be pushy to get another step. So that's an example of a knowing and doing gap, and you've got to work on the right end of the problem. So everybody knows mentorship is important. It's not a new topic. So why aren't more people mentoring? And so when I was starting to dive into that, I think people have self-limiting beliefs that, and you read the books out there, and there's terrific books, but it's usually about famous people, and they're getting mentored by other famous people, or they become such a big success story. So I think there's this belief that I'm not capable of doing that. So in the book, I talked about different ways to be a mentor. You can be an encouragement mentor. You are that person that after people have a conversation with you, they leave going, I can do this. That's a talent because you show up to listen versus, as you've said, not have the all about me. You can be a resiliency mentor. So you're that person that you're like a Super Ball. You bounce back and you bounce forward. And just by how you model, how you go through adversity, that's mentorship. So I have people that that I'll read about and study that I will never meet, but boy, I look at how they handle adversity and I think that's the person I want to be. That's
You,
shaping my behavior. So there's all sorts of ways, and it doesn't mean these people had a title, a big office. So there's different ways to be a mentor. You can be a
that's
tough love mentor. I've had a lot of friends say, I'm calling you because everybody else is telling me what I want to hear and you'll tell me what I need to hear. So I don't know if that's a compliment or not. But,
no,
tough love are those people that care enough to point out the blind spot.
encouragement, resilience, and tough love.
Hmm.
When you can find a person who provides all three of those and puts a little fun into it, what a keeper. How be so grateful. I only have one person like that in my life, but she's more than enough, my trainer, who provides all those things for me, a good kick in the butt when I need it.
Wonderful.
And
Yeah,
it's
and,
taught
and
me,
we all need those a person or persons. Hmm.
I don't know what my life would look like without that human. And I think if we're open to it, we're open to that blessing of having at least one person where you say, I don't know what my life would look like, how I would be if I didn't have that person in my life. And they usually come without searching for them. They usually just walk into your life. I'm wondering if those people have walked into your life without you doing some great search, or do they come from a great search, or neither, or both? How has that worked for you in terms of how you found your mentors?
I didn't find my mentors. In fact, one of the missions I'm on is that often we encourage people, rightfully so, find a mentor. But you know what, Paul? I'm a little tired of that because when I was in my 30s getting mentored, I didn't know to find a mentor. They found me.
Uh,
So I really want to flip the script here and say, quit putting it on the mentee. Go find a mentor. Go find a mentor. We don't even know what we're doing sometimes. We don't even know we need a mentor. So I think it's incumbent on the adults in the room to find mentees. Look up, look around, quit looking at your phones all the time. And if you'll just start
guilty.
paying attention, you'll see somebody in a meeting that's uncomfortable, somebody that's not speaking up, maybe somebody that got dismissed in a meeting because there's a high driver that's taking over the conversation. Well, if you're just looking up, you can grab that person after a meeting and say, "Hey, come in. Let's talk about that." So I think it's incumbent upon the mentor to find the mentees. So
I
I'm
think
flipping the
again,
script a little bit.
I think again, this is a spiritual position to have an open heart, an open mind, and clear set of eyes, and to have the intention of making other people's lives better. I
Yeah.
study Buddhism. It's called metta, loving kindness, and also upaya, expedient means. It's one thing to be lovingly kind, but if you don't have the knowledge to actually do the help, then that's your encouragement. You can be an encouragement mentor. And I also want someone who can kick me in the ass and show me the right map. This
And
has
that
been
could be
actually,
that's a business mentor. So that they could be the segue saying, you know what, I think you need to find this person. I'll make that introduction for you. So you can have people that their mentorship is, I think the word is they call it access. They're good at giving you access to other people. You might be an access mentor. You don't have all the expertise, but boy, are you willing to help them find the people that can help
yeah,
them. Hmm.
yeah, I have a good network. We're actually at the end of our time. This has been fabulous. I've really enjoyed this exchange, this sharing, this clarity, this conversation that you have brought to us. It's extraordinary.
Thank you for
an
having me as a guest.
you are an extraordinary human being. I'm so glad that my producer Tracy found you. I want to give you the opportunity to assist my audience more. Number one, by naming your books. We'll put it in the show notes, so they'll
Okay.
find it anyway. So please give us the titles of your books.
A, emotional intelligence for sales success,
Hmm.
emotional intelligence for sales leadership, and
Hmm.
be the mentor who mattered. And you can find them on our website at salesleadershipdevelopment.com or on Amazon. Mhm.
I love that. Now, I also know my audience will want to continue the conversation with you. In addition to gifting themselves with your books, how can they stay in the conversation with you, Colleen?
So we're pretty regular, like most people, on LinkedIn. I welcome any messages there. If you go to the website, we've got the contact forms. You can sign up for our newsletter. We do a newsletter. It's really geared towards sales managers. We do a bi-weekly newsletter that has a video accompanying that. So
Cool.
reach out. Mhm.
Thank you. All right, Colleen, thank you for being my very special guest on the Influencer's Edge. Please stay after I've ended the broadcast officially so we can have a brief green room chat. Ladies and
Okay.
gentlemen, once again, an awesome guest. And Colleen, be prepared. I always end the show with an odd outro. As always, to the hostile alien armada in your cloaked spacecraft hovering just outside of that Earth's atmosphere, remember, eat the Canadians first. They taste better. And we'll see you on the next episode of The Influencers.
The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Welcome to the Influencer's Edge. This is the place where you come to get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques to leapfrog over the pack in sales, persuasion, and influence. Be sure you visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now sit back, tune in, and enjoy today's episode.